As the executor of your great-uncle's will, I hereby declare that the full inheritance of $300 million is yours. Congratulations.
Hello, welcome to Drive-Thru Review number 77. Today I'm going to talk about Last Will. It's a game from Rio Grande Games, and then if you're in Europe, check Games Edition, we'll have it for you. It plays 2 to 5 players in about an hour, give or take. It's sort of a strange game. You're basically trying to lose money as fast as you can. And so anybody that's my age will remember the movie Brewster's Million with Richard Pryor. Basically the idea is your long lost uncle who you've never met gives you an inheritance, but he only gives you part of the inheritance. So in the case of this game, you get 70 bucks or 70,000, let's say, and then you've got to spend it. And the first person to spend all of it, or to spend most of it, or to go into the most debt, is going to win whatever the real inheritance is, or basically in this case win the game. So it's a very funny movie. It's the game is based more on the time period where the original, I believe, play was written in the early 1900s. So it's got an old sort of Victorian kind of feel to it in a way. But it's got sort of card drafting and sort of worker placement, but more like worker blocking. It's not really a worker placement, but you use little pawns. So let me just show you how it works, and then I'll come back and tell you more about it. Okay, let me give you a quick high-level breakdown of everything here. So you've got your main player board up top there, and you've got some action selection stuff over here, as well as some cards that you're going to be drafting during the game. And then the players have their own player board. You can see that down here, where they can mark the number of actions over on the left down here per round, and then you can place some cards here in your sort of tableau. You'll also be able to acquire some of these extension pieces and just kind of stick these off to the side to add more cards. And you'll be placing like workers and buildings and things like that in here. Things that you're going to be able to use turn after turn. Each player will start off with usually $70 in this money, but use random cards you can draw. And so you don't have to start with 70 every time. You could start with less or more if you want to have sort of a shorter or longer game. And you can see here these 2 little top hats. These are sort of like workers. You'll place these out to draft cards and to block other people from drafting them. And then you've got your little action selection token. I'll explain that in a second. And you've got some of these little wooden bits here. And these are to represent some of the hired hands, so to speak, that you'll be placing in some of your buildings. So you may get some dogs and horses, and you put some of these on your farm, or maybe cooks or chefs, and you'll put these on like a mansion or something. And then you've got these little houses here, and I'll explain these in a little bit more detail later, but these will basically go on your house to track the value of the house currently. So let me show you about the different types of cards now. Now basically you have 4 types of cards. You've got buildings or houses or farms or mansions and things like that you can buy. You've got people that you can hire here. You've got events, and then you've got these sort of extra helper cards here, these blue cards. Now these black bordered cards, the houses and the people, when you get these, you're going to put them on your player board and be able to use them again and again and again. Whereas these white cards, you're going to play these and basically just play them once and then discard them and use whatever the effect is that's on the card there. Now these blue ones, they come in a few different types. So you've got horses and guests and dogs and chefs and everything like that. And so you can use these in conjunction with especially the buildings and then these white event cards. So if you play a building or activate a building or play in a white event card, if you have these, you can play them along with it so that you can actually spend more money. Because remember, the whole idea is to lose all of the money that you have before everybody else. So these can kind of enhance that. Pretty cool. So the first thing players are going to do on their turn is they're going to take their little action tokens here, and they're going to put them anywhere on one of these hourglasses. So let's say we've got 2 players for now, and I'll just put purple there and then yellow here. And you know what, let's do 3 players. I'll put green here. So what's going to happen is as soon as you put this token there, you're going to draw this number of cards. So you can see purple will immediately draw a card. And when you draw a card based on where you put your marker, you're going to draw from any of these decks here, these 4 decks. And you can draw, one from here, or 2 from here, and 1 from here, depending on how many cards you're going to draw. I should say also that there's also a sort of a crown deck, and these can be made up of any of those other types of cards. So, but these are a little bit extra powerful, and they do a little bit more cool stuff, but you can't draw off of these in the case of when you take the draw action to start your turn. So when purple places here, he'll draw 1 card, and you do that immediately after placing your pawn. Yellow will draw 3, and green will draw 6. But after everybody's placed their pawns, going around the table in clockwise direction, then the rest of the round is going to be determined by the order of the pawns going from left to right. So purple will go first. He didn't get to draw as many cards as green, but he's going to go first, so that's kind of nice. And the next thing to notice after you go down from here is you can see there's a number of hats. There's either 1 or 2 hats. And so that's the amount of workers that you can place out on the board. So purple's only going to be able to place 1 hat, whereas yellow and green will each place 2 hats. The next thing you're going to notice is the number of actions that you're going to get. So now we know how many hats we're going to place out, and then after everybody's done placing out hats or workers, we're going to get this number of actions to spend and use with any cards we might have in our hand. And those actions are just denoted on here. So in the case of purple, he got 2 actions, and then if he had any cards that gave him bonus actions, he'd move those up, and then on his turn, as he spent cards and did actions, then these would just go down to 0, and then he'd be done. Now there's a few places you can place your hats here. And you can see this board is somewhat modular, so based on the number of players, there'll be somewhat different options or just a slight tweak to how the cards are laid out, but pretty much it's the same as what you're seeing here. So starting over here, the first thing you can do is place your pawn here, and then you can arrange these property value tokens here. And so this will either increase or decrease the amount which you buy and sell these particular types of properties. Secondly, you can place one of your pawns here. You can see there's a spot for each color, so only a player can go in this section once, but all the players can go. There's not really any blocking. And when you go here, you can draw any card you want off the top of these 4 decks. If you go here, it allows you to grab one of these extensions. If you go here, you can basically just spend $2, because remember, you're just trying to spend money. And then this is set up for 5 players, so if you go here, you can get an extension as well. And then basically all of these other spots here, you basically go there and then grab the card and add that to your hand. And that's it. After everybody's placed and taken whatever action from the placement, then we go into our action phase. We're actually going to be playing cards from our hand. So we can just take a quick look at some of these cards here. I've grabbed some of the different types. Now, there's a lot of iconography on these cards, but it's not really anywhere, it's hard to say. It's not too bad, and a gamer, you know, somebody experienced playing games won't have any trouble with it. But the thing that keeps this from being a gateway game, and I think it could be a really great gateway game, is the iconography. That's going to give people pause. Unless they have another gamer there, an experienced gamer who's sort of familiar with how this kind of thing will work, then they're going to have some trouble. You can't just like give this to somebody that isn't a gamer and then expect them to play it out of the box. I will say that on the back of the rule book, there is a great breakdown of all sort of the different permutations of icons and what they mean. And it's really well explained, really straightforward. And I should say the rule book is great. It's nice full color, very well explained. It's probably longer than it needs to be, but even as I say that, I hesitate because it's really well done. And it goes into a lot of detail about, about the game. So definitely a great rule book. So let's just take a quick look at some of these cards. Now first you've got your buildings, your properties here. And you can see here's the value of this, and it's a farm, because you can tell by the icon there. And it starts up at $9. Well, then you've got these orange mansions and these yellow mansions, and they start at 17 and 15. So to play these out of your hand, you have to pay an action, and you play that. And you know that because you've got the A there. That means anytime you play a card to one of your little tableau areas here, you have to use up an action. So you'd have to use an action there, and then pay that amount plus or minus whatever the current value is. So this was an orange one that I used, so I'd have to pay +3, and that's good. I'm having to pay more to buy the property, and I want to get rid of money, understand. So I'll pay 17 plus 3, I'll pay $20, and I'll put my little house there. Next type of card I could play is one of these cards with a little person on the back. I play that, that would cost me an action. And basically I can activate this every turn and spend $1. Not too great, but you know, it's going to happen every turn, so that's nice. Another example of a good card is this guy. So if I play him, it's going to cost me an action, but I'm going to get an extra action every turn, so that'll be nice as well. So when I activate these cards, he's not activated because he's sort of just a constant power. But if I activate him, I'll just drop him down, spend the $1, and then at the end of the turn, I'm going to reset him. Now the buildings are a little bit different, and I chose a simple one here, but every turn I could activate this for $3 and then spend the action. Well, I wasted $3, and that's good. But if I didn't do that, then it will depreciate, and it will depreciate every turn unless you use its action. So there's a nice dynamic here between, okay, I'm going to waste money every turn, but I want to depreciate it so that towards the end of the game it's going to be worth less money. Now another example of a building is this farm here. You can see I buy it for $9 plus or minus whatever the market is, and then it does not going to depreciate anymore, but it starts off pretty low. Now I can activate it for an action every turn for $1, or I can spend an action and play a dog. And remember, the dogs here are part of these blue sort of helper cards. So I can spend an action to play this dog, and then I can put this token on it here. So now if it's down here like so, instead of activating it for a $1 return, I can activate it for $4. And there's a whole different variety of all of these kind of cards. Way too many to show you in a short review. Now here we've got some event cards. And remember, these are one-time use. You play them and then discard them. So this guy simply, you pay an action, spend $3. No big deal. Now this guy, you could spend it for an action and then pay $1. But if you added a chef in this case, you could spend an extra $2. And if I had a guest blue card, remember that lady with the guest, I could spend another $2. So you can kind of get these in hand and dump them for big money. And that's pretty much the game. There's one other aspect to it, but you pretty much are going to spend all the money you can. There's 7 rounds in the game, and if nobody has spent all of their money, then whoever has the least money at the end of 7 rounds is the winner. Now, if somebody runs out of money, say in the 6th round, then that's it, they're the winner. Now, if more than one people spends all of their money, it's just whoever who goes in the most debt, so you can spend below 0. However, if you have any property, you still are not considered to be broke. You've actually got to sell this property back. So if this was the only property I had at the end of the game, it would still be worth $5. So I'd have to take an action and sell this property for $5 plus or minus whatever the market is, and then get that money out and then figure out another way to spend that. And that's it. Okay, hope you enjoyed the overview. This is a game, I enjoy this game. I feel though that it's a game that is sort of a filler for gamers, or it's a next step game for gateway gamers. The icons are really well done; they're really straightforward, but it's got that sort of blocking, mental block for people. Because in some of those wild cards, or not the wild cards, but the crown cards that come out, those extra powerful cards, the iconography gets a little bit complex on there, and you've got to always refer to the back of the book. And there's some real kind of cool combos you can do based off of that and sort of tailor a strategy. You're going to go sort of property heavy, or you're going to go event heavy and that kind of thing. I don't want to spoil too much because there's some real good discovery in this game as far as some of the different avenues you can take. And I was quite surprised by that, because it's a really light game, really simple for a gamer. But it's also, starting to meander, it's also better, I think, with less players. Now, that's not to say I don't like it with 5 players. I do like it with 5, but I don't know what it is. It still plays really well with 5. I don't want to, it sounds like I'm trying to knock it with more. But I personally enjoy it with less, because there's a little bit more deliberation that you can do. Whereas with 5, if you're kind of, depending on the player order, you can get kind of, you don't get to go where you want with the action selection and things like that. But it's really well balanced, I think. So you can either going to get a lot of cards, or you're going to build up a lot of actions on that turn. You kind of have to pick and choose your weapon, and that's going to change as the game goes on. Early on you're going to be buying properties and hoping to get those depreciated and things like that. And then maybe at the end of the game, spending lots of action points with the events and the one-time use things. So there's a lot of cool little things you can do, and the theme is awesome. I love Brewster's Million. I would still watch that if it comes on TV. It's just it's a great fantasy. So you're going to get, so you just magically inherit all this money, and you have to spend it to get even more money. So totally ridiculous, but it's a good sort of escapism. And I should say that the cards and the art on the cards and the name of the cards is very thematic. So like there's one card that I love to play. It's called a Wild Party, and you play that, and then it like automatically depreciates the value of your property like 2 or 3 steps. And so it's great. You throw a party and trash the place, and the place isn't worth anything. So that's a great moment in the game. So yeah, this is a game that I'd recommend. It sort of kind of hits in between that gamer and the gateway thing. So yeah, check it out. Thanks.